All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our MBA CSEA Employment Reporting Best Practices webinar. This is Ryan Pratt talking. I'm the head of marketing and research here at GradLeaders, and I've got my colleague Dave Hoy here with me today. He's an original co-founder of the business and a business intelligence specialist. So a quick reminder, everyone has been muted on entry automatically, but if you have questions, just type them into the chat window at any time and we will answer them at the end. Our agenda today looks like this. We're going to do a quick overview. I'm going to do a quick overview of the company, and then Dave's going to talk a lot about collecting employment data, the MBA CSEA reports for full-time MBA standards, specialty master standards, and part-time MBA standards. And then we're going to end with some best practices at the end of the webinar. So really quickly, for anybody who's not familiar with GradLeaders, we're a career services management platform and a campus recruitment software provider with one goal, really, to help our partner schools and companies create more meaningful connections between students and employers. So we've actually been doing this for a really long time, about 30 years. 30 years ago, we actually used to physically print and bind resume books here in the office and ship them off to employers who wanted to hire those students. Over the years, we evolved our platform into a full career services management platform. We did some other really innovative stuff. We launched the outcome survey and developed a bunch of other cool features, keep adding to the platform over the years. Just a few years ago, we partnered with a company called Looker. It's a business intelligence tool to give all of our users access to data visualization and predictive analytics tools. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, too. So today, there's a lot of things that you can do in the system in our reporting. There's a lot of things you can do within Looker in GradLeaders, including metrics reporting on candidate engagement, employer engagement, job postings, et cetera, all those key metrics that you care most about. Today, though, we're going to spend all of our time talking about the employment reporting data. So really, without further ado, here is Dave Hoy.
Thanks, Ryan. We're talking mostly today, as Ryan said, about employment reporting and specifically producing the MBA CSEA reports that are mandated by that group. We are a certified vendor. We've got standards reports for not only the full-time MBA Standards Edition 6, but the part-time MBA and specialty masters as well. Just a word up front and a dumb joke, of course. This is pretend data. We had a data set from the MBA CSEA auditors to prepare for their audit and certification, so no actual business students were harmed in the making of this presentation. We want to give a quick word about collecting employment data, and I'll walk you through a demo of this in a moment. And I will be flipping a lot today between this PowerPoint presentation and the live system, so bear with me. But three highlights for you to know about in terms of collecting student data for employment purposes. Number one, our interface is fully mobile responsive, and I'll show you what I mean by that when we get in the system. But the bottom line is it's a fully functioning career services platform, as Ryan said, but it's fully mobile. No need for a separate app to be downloaded and installed. Just log into our normal website. If you're on a laptop, that's great. If you're on a tablet or phone, it works as well. 100% functionality, fully mobile responsive. We've got flexible surveys for you to collect the data. So we're going to start you off with a base configuration that's fully compatible for the data that MBA CSEA reporting requires, but then all of our customers tweak the survey, customize it, make it their own, collect some extra data fields that they need internally. So flexible survey configuration is another big thing to keep in mind. I'm going to toggle over to my browser now, and I'm going to be a student here for a moment. You can see I'm logged in as a student in a demo site. I want to show you what I mean by mobily responsive, first of all. I'm just going to make the window a little bit of a different size, and I want you to just watch how it reacts. Everything stacks vertically. There's no side-to-side scrolling at any point. And you notice the menu already went away. It went from the left-hand side up to the little menu that you would typically see on a phone app. So it's, again, fully mobily responsive so that students can do anything they need on the phone, including give their employment data. So let's just walk through that flexible survey quickly if I'm a student, and you'll see what this looks like. It's a wizard type of configuration, multiple screens sort of stepping them through the process. The first question is, what's your overall status? And again, we start you with the CSEA compliant status settings, and every school tailors them a little, as I said. But, you know, if you do have a student who says, well, I'm continuing my education, I mean, that's good enough for CSEA, right? All they need to know is they're not seeking. But for your purposes, you have the benefit of configuring what we call a follow-up survey. That I said continuing ed, you can ask me some questions about my continuing ed. You know, where are you going to go, what are you going to study, et cetera, et cetera. So the concept of a follow-up survey can be applied to every single one of the status settings the student might choose. So we have customers that will configure a survey for starting your own business. You know, what are you going to do? Where'd you get your funding, et cetera, et cetera. So follow-up surveys are a big deal. But the typical process then is just, you know, I'm a student, I've accepted a job, let's talk about that. Again, here's a follow-up survey before I took a new job. You can ask some extra questions here if you want to, make them required if you'd like. And then for purposes of, you know, keying in an offer, let's go ahead and do that. First thing I have to do is select a company. So I can do a name search here and try to find the company that's given me my offer, select it, and move on to the rest of the survey. The next page, I'm essentially then just filling out a job offer survey. And you can see company name, job title, all the fields you would need for MBA CSEA reporting, the source, industry, function, et cetera, world region, compensation information, et cetera. I won't waste time on this presentation filling out this form, but suffice to say, you've got the ability to add and remove fields, make certain fields required that you need, add your own custom fields, et cetera. So that is the concept of how you collect the data in the system, and then, of course, administratively, you would also have the ability to then review the information, mark it as final or audited in your eyes, and then, you know, produce the final reports, which is really what we're here to talk about today. Let's go back to the deck. As you then have collected and checked all the data and you're ready to produce your reports, we're going to go through a number of slides here, but I do want to take a moment and just sort of show you the final report first. So let's go back to my browser for a second, and we're going to be an administrator here, sorry. Here I am. So I'm in that MBA CSEA auditor site that I mentioned earlier. How do you run a report? Well, you've got some filters. You can say, well, which group am I reporting for? In this case, it's the full-time MBAs. You hit the button and the report comes out. And again, in the interest of time, I didn't want to make you watch me run that report, so I just produced it in advance. And I'm going to put it here on the screen in front of you. It produces a PDF exactly in the MBA CSEA format. So once you've done your work, right, you've collected the data from the students, you've told, you know, the system your graduation date, you've done your checking, it just produces a single PDF. In this case, you can see 16 pages of the full MBA CSEA report. This is for the full-time MBA standard edition, version 6. So it's super easy. We refer to it as a one-click report where you just come in and put your parameters in, hit the button, and out comes the report. Easy as can be. So let's talk about the various sections on the report. I think a lot of you on the call would be familiar with the standards, but part of this review is not only for current customers, but prospective customers to sort of understand the standards and how the data comes out of our system and how you can then sort of find that data within the system and update as needed to impact the reports. So section 1A, I think, is simply a matter of understanding the student body that you have. It relies on a standard citizenship field in our system that determines is a student permanently work authorized or not. and then it uses the various statuses that you might see in the system for the students, and it breaks out this first chart. All of this is simply from the student profile data. There's no job offer information included on this first report, and all of that data can be verified in the system if you need to in a very simple way by simply coming over to your candidate or student file and running a very simple search in the tool. Again, let me just do that quickly for you here. If I were going to just search on the candidate job reporting status to try to find all of my seeking students, I'm seeking received an offer or accepted. The rest of these statuses, the MBA CSEA would consider those as not seeking. So if I just run this search, I'm going to see undoubtedly the same 93 that I saw on the top line of the report, and there they are on my match tab. If I did want to try and break that out, based on the permanent work authorization, I could factor that into my search as well and say, well, I want to find the folks that are permanently authorized to work. Again, you may have other statuses in your configuration, J1, H1B, et cetera. But in this case, I'm saying just show me the people that are permanently authorized to work in the U.S. So I've got 79. And if I toggle back over to that deck, you can see there's my 79, and all in all, I had the 93 people that were seeking employment. The rest of these statuses would break out in much the same fashion. If we then proceed on to the next table in the chart, Table 2A is about the timing of the first job offers. So, pardon me, and it's in relation to your graduation date. The system will allow you to configure one of two different ways. Some schools are in a situation where all their students in a particular group have the same graduation date, in which case you can just have one setting that pertains to the entire class. The system will also accommodate it if you've got, let's say you've got 3 graduations in a year that are going to be in one MBA CSEA report. Then you can simply put a standard field called graduation date on the student profile, and the report will calculate them accordingly based on each person's individual grad date. So the system will work either way. You can see going forward here from the first slide, we had those 93 seeking students. That's all the rest of the report cares about, is just the seeking students. All those students who were not seeking back here on Table 1A are no longer considered for the rest of the report. Again, this could all be verified in the system. There's a tool I'm going to show you now in our platform that we call the offer file. It is all of the job offers record. Again, I could come in and search and say, show me all of the full-time MBAs. I've already run a search just for all the full-time MBAs. I've got 87 job offers. If I were to, extend that out a little further, I could even include the offer date as part of the search. I could search on graduation date, for example. So let's just do that. I believe for this test data set, the graduation date was May 18th of 2018. Sorry, and I wanted that to be the through date. I'm trying to find all my students who had an offer before graduation. So the number I've come up with is 77. Again, so I can find out who these people are. For our customers that may be on the call, this is less about you needing to prove that the system is correct. I can tell you the system's correct. We've been audited and approved by the MBA CSEA auditors. So I'm just trying to show you how the reports relate back to data in the system and how you might find it, like if you were questioning the red arrow there. Who are my 77 students who had their first offer by the date of graduation? There are easy ways to find that data within the GradLeaders Career Center tool. The purpose of showing you how to do those searches. Now, notice the 77 that's there. There's also 10 people in the second column that have received their offer after graduation, but within 3 months of graduation. So those 87 people are going to be important for the rest of the report going forward. On to the next slide, sorry. And then of these people, the 93 seeking people, when did they accept their offer? Again, this is based on the graduation date that I described on the prior slide. it's going to look only at their accepted offers, and this is the one I meant to mention. So 73 plus 12, 85 of your students in this case accepted their offer within 3 months of graduation or before graduation, and that's what all the salary reports are going to be based on. Those 8 people out there in the column that have not reported accepting an offer within 3 months of graduation, some of them may have accepted an offer 4 months after graduation, or maybe they're still seeking. That's still a possibility. They could still be seeking and not have that acceptance just yet, and they would still be out in that third column. In terms of the full-time standards table 3A, this is all of those 85 people that accepted their job offers within 3 months of graduation. How do they break out based on offer source? Now, offer source is one of those questions you saw when I was a student filling out my offer survey. Every school that we work with customizes this list to a certain extent, and that's fine according to the standards, as long as you can break all of them down into 2 major categories. Was the job offer source facilitated by the school, by the Career Center, or was the job offer facilitated by the graduate or the student themselves? So those are the 2 major breakouts. Again, you can control that in terms of how you position the job offer source, but those 2 main categories are required. Now, I'm going to show you a tool here, again, not for purposes of proving that this report is correct, but for purposes of you auditing your data, making sure it's what you expect. How can I find, in this case, I put a little arrow there on the number 6. How can I find the 6 students who accepted an offer and the source is their personal contacts? So I want to show you a couple of things here that can help you quickly work your way through this data. I'm going to go into my browser for a second. There is a report we have that is called the Profile and Follow-Up Responses Export. It is, and there are a lot of parameters here, but to suffice to say, I could simply filter this down to my full-time MBA students within a certain graduation date range. I could pick all the data columns that I want and run the export. I'm not going to do that now. The output of this export is a spreadsheet that I'm about to show you. And this is a very useful tool for purposes of checking your data. This spreadsheet, again, it would output all of the columns you asked it to. In this case, in advance, I came in and highlighted the job offer source column here because that's the report we're looking at. So you can, just by doing simple Excel filters, you can come in and filter on all the output then and say, well, I was interested in personal contacts primarily. So let's just look at that. And so by using this export utility and a simple Excel filter, you can say, oh, these are my 6 students who had the offer source that was their own personal contacts, and I can see their names over here. And so this is just a very handy tool, again, that our customers use to facilitate their final audits of the data. Okay, we've spent a lot of time on these first few tables. I'm going to go a little faster now. I think you're starting to get the idea. But each of these tables, the data is coming from the system. Table 4.A is a compensation summary. Again, a reminder, it's those 85 people who accepted their offers within 3 months of graduation. Also remember that base salary is not necessarily a required field. We have lots of students that might choose to report their offer with all the data except the salary. They want to hold that private, and it's their right to do so. So in this case, you can see 78 of the 85 students reported a salary, and the numbers there are broken down in the MBA CSEA compliant way. Same with signing bonuses. You could use that same export and spreadsheet that I showed you before if you want to go in and verify a number. Maybe one of these salary numbers is sticking out like a sore thumb. Okay, who reported a $750,000 salary? You can go find that very easily in the spreadsheet export that I showed you a moment ago. The rest of the salary tables, 4B through 4L, are generated in much the same fashion, broken out by function, industry, world, region, et cetera. The system will use the undergrad major and the years of experience from the student profile, as well as the job offer data to generate the rest of these sections. An important note for our customers, it's a change to the way the standards are working now, but Any row that is below the minimum threshold of data, in this case it's 3, this is a long time MBA CSEA standard, that if you have fewer than 3 data points, you should suppress the salary information. Again, you're trying to protect, the privacy of the students that might have chosen a job in a not so common function or industry or part of the world, right? You don't need to just broadcast that particular person's salary to anybody. So you suppress, you see the zeros there that are circled in green. In the other job function, we had 2 students report a salary, so we suppress those numbers. That's not new. What is new is that any row you suppress the salaries on is not to be included in the totals row. Again, the reason is privacy, right? Let's say one of those students with another job function had an incredibly high or incredibly low salary. It would stick out like a sore thumb if it were being suppressed on the other row, but then all of a sudden there's this $500,000 number showing up as the high base salary on the whole report. It would be pretty easy to figure out, oh, that came from the other job function, and it would just look strange also. So CSEA, during the auditing process, asked us to remove the suppressed rows from the total on all of these salary rows. All right, take a breath, shifting gears here from the full-time MBA standards to the specialty masters. This report, in many ways, is a lot like the full-time standards report, with a few exceptions. And most of the exceptions occur right here on table 1.A, where they're trying to understand something about your class size. There are new fields needed on the student profile for program type, and a numeric value for years of experience, whereas traditionally the MBA CSEA has used a pick list for years of experience. I might be 0 to 3 years, 4 to 5 years, whatever the pick list might be. In this case, the Specialty Master's Report needs a numeric value for years of experience because it calculates an average on table 1.A. You see the green circle there. So that's a bit of a change. You can see the 3 red places marked for input. These are just fields that when you go to run the report for Specialty Masters, the system will prompt you to type in those 3 fields about your program delivery method, the length of the program, and then any optional demographic information that you want to include in your report. The top half of this chart, no surprise here. It's just saying how many graduates do you have that are permanently authorized to work, not permanently authorized to work. Pretty simple chart there at the top, again, coming from the student profile. 1.B, this should look really familiar. It's just like 1.A on the full-time MBA report, where you're breaking out your students based on their work authorization status and then their overall employment status, seeking, not seeking, et cetera. Again, the timing reports, very similar to the full-time MBA. When did they get their first offer? And then 2B is when did they get their acceptance? The primary difference here is 6 months after graduation versus 3. The offer source table in the Specialty Master Standards, and all of those compensation reports, again, nearly identical to the full-time MBA report, except you're just dealing with the students that accepted their offer within 6 months of graduation. 4B is another unique section for the Specialty Master's Report. It just derives this table from the student job offers that were accepted within 6 months of graduation. It shows you the most common job titles and the most common employer names that are on the student accepted offers. So it's just a listing of the top employers, essentially, and their job titles. Okay, the third report is the part-time MBA standards. This one's quite a bit different than the other reports, so we'll take a little time with this. First of all, there's a new field that has to be on the student profile for program type. Is it an in-person program, the more traditional way, right, where you show up on campus for all your classes? Is it online, or is it a mix? Is it a hybrid program? So that is a field that becomes mandatory on the part-time MBA student profile record. That's going to drive a lot of the reports here, and you see the breakout there as the columns across the top of the report. Now, the columns down the field, current employment status, I put that in red. It's not part of the formal report, but I wanted to point out that it's a different field. This is not their seeking, not seeking, et cetera statuses that the other 2 reports use. This is a field that is intended to be collected at the time the student matriculates and comes into your school, right? So you're in a part-time MBA program. What is your current employment status as you begin the program? Are you working? Are you starting your own business? Are you not working, et cetera? So they just want to know what is the student's current employment status at the time you join the program. And that's just a breakout of your class, basically, so the MBA CSEA can understand your program. Now, a lot of these reports now will start to look similar to the full-time MBA in many ways. In this case, all of these salary reports 2A through 2L, same categories: function, industry, world, region, undergrad, major, et cetera. What the difference is, you've got 3 charts. Broken down by the type of program. So you'll get separate numbers for the in-person, the online, and the hybrid students, broken out into 3 charts. Again, if this is not relevant to your campus, if everything's in person, the online and hybrid charts would just be suppressed. The compensation summary, again, much the same. Base salary and starting bonus, just like the full-time MBA report. All the same rules apply, but broken down by program type. Table 3 is offer source, similar to the other 2 reports. It does use a different list for offer source. So it does sort of mandate a second survey question for offer source that's different than the other reports. Not a big deal, just need to configure your surveys accordingly. Another new thing on the part-time MBA standards report is the concept of tracking career changers. So most of our customer schools simply put these 5 yes/no questions on the job offer survey. Does this job offer represent a change in company? Yes, no. A change in level of position, function, industry, geography change. So 5 yes/no questions for the student to respond to. And then again, you see the breakout here by program type, and you can see, how many people are getting career changes out of the part-time MBA program. That is the intent of that. Also worth mentioning, not necessarily related to any of those 3 reports specifically, is that the system does now support conversion of non-US dollar currencies. As we went through the auditor process, the CSEA auditors asked us questions about the timing of our currency conversion, and so we made some changes in that regard. But the system does allow you to collect job offers in non-US dollar currencies. The system will hold the conversions until a prescribed date. MBA CSEA asked us to set up our system in such a way that it would force you to have one consistent currency conversion date for a given reporting year. So if you're, for example, full-time MBA reporting year ends September 30th and you're producing your report, you can convert on any date you want, but it has to be the same date for the entire class. Reason being, if Ryan had gotten a job offer from the same company in Europe that I did, he got his offer 6 months ago for 50,000 euros, and I got my offer today for 50,000 euros. In our minds, we would have 2 different values in terms of US dollars as to what that 50,000 euros might be worth because of the difference in the conversion rates on the 2 dates that are 6 months apart. When in fact, we're getting the same compensation. We're both getting 50,000 euros, and so you need to consistently convert those currencies on the same day. And our system will support that and record that for you. And then any back editing you do, if you go fix a student's salary from 50,000 euros to 49,000 euros and the offer came in 4 weeks ago, it's going to run the conversion on the same date for that all of the other students in that reporting year have been converted. That's it, Ryan. Any questions coming into the chat queue yet?
Yeah, a reminder, use the chat functionality, not the Q&A functionality. I know that's confusing. It's just easier for all of us, but use the chat functionality to ask questions. We do have a couple in there already, Dave. The first one is, can the survey handle skip logic? Employment survey.
Yes, I think by skip logic, what probably the questioner means is, do I have questions that can be different based on how one, if I answer my country is United States, can we make the state question required? if the student picks a different country, can we hide the state question and so forth? And the answer is yes. You got a powerful surveying tool there that lets you use logic and rules to ask different conditional questions based on the circumstance of the form.
Perfect. Another question is the reporting tool branded to GradLeaders, or can it be branded to the school?
It's definitely branded to the school. It's a white label site. Again, in my demo, you saw the GradLeaders branding there. That's because that's a site we were just using with our MBA CSEA auditors. Hopefully in the earlier screens when I was being a student, you noticed the logo said prestigious university. Again, it was a GradLeaders blue, but all of our customers use their own colors, their own brands, their own names.
Awesome. Kind of related to that, is the messaging on the screen flexible as well?
It is. Every help message that your students or employers might see is customizable by you, and that goes for the dashboard content as well that you can put in front of your students.
Okay, only two others so far. One of them is, do you have a way to record and track down rumored offers?
We do. I haven't shown that, and it really wasn't part of the audit process, but I'll go into that site for a moment here and see if I can show you that. I suspect it's turned on here. We call it grapevine. It's a rumor. It's not necessarily a real thing, but maybe one of your coaches had a chat with a student in the hall and they heard, hey, I got a job offer from so-and-so. Let's just go in. We'll pick a random student here. And again, this is you administratively as a school career professional using the system. You can come into the student's record. You can come in and say, I want to add an outcome or an offer, pick full-time or internship. This is the company, much like you saw on the student side when I was inputting my job offer. May not have a lot of companies in this demo site. There we go. And so you can put the job offer in. If Grapevine were on in this particular site, I'm sorry it's not, but there's simply a yes-no question here. Grapevine offer, yes, no. If you say yes, then administratively all of these required fields become not required, and you can just put in as much information as you have. And there's also a field for grapevine source where you could say, well, the student told me this directly, or maybe you heard it third hand from another student, whatever it may be. You have the ability to track those grapevine offers, and then all of the reporting options that are here under the employment reporting allow you to include or exclude the grapevine as part of the parameters you're setting up for these reports.
Awesome, thank you. Just one other question related to Looker. So if you want to take this data and slice and dice it more, can you do that with the Looker tool mentioned earlier?
You can. All of the data in the GradLeaders system is accessible by Looker. I'll try to quickly get someplace here and show you. Rather than this auditor site, I'm going to go back to other demo site here. So Looker lets you do things like this. You can put together any data visualizations around any of the data you're capturing in the system. We'll give this a moment to spin up here, but in this case, I've put together a few samples of, like, here's our 10 most recent job offers that our students have submitted. Here's our overall employment status. While these are spinning up, you can see it's starting to put data out there. And you can even do some charts on things like salary and so forth. So yes, you can slice and dice the data a variety of ways. Any Looker charts or reports that are built give you full filtering capability, and you can do things like schedule these reports for delivery to people via email and things like that.
Perfect. There is one more question, which you might be able to show in the demo as well. Are there tools that also help students compare their offers to similar offers?
Yes. Let's go back to being that student that I was at the very beginning. As I was keying in my job offer data, there are tools that you can place on the student dashboard to help them in that regard. And there's really two ways to do that. I think the most popular one, as we reload the dashboard here, is the offer comparison utility that you mentioned, questioner. And it is, I want to let this run here and go back to the dashboard, make sure we get a fresh session. There we go. It can be called anything. We've called it the salary comparison tool here, and it lets your students do their own research. Handy tool, number of our customers use it. Let's just go into one of these. Again, they can create their own searches, but it basically allows a student to come in and run a query with any search. In this case, it's all full-time jobs, so that's not a terribly meaningful search, but you can come in and you can search by industry, or you can search by job function and narrow the numbers down and get relevant data. So a student could say, well, I'm going to be doing financial work in the energy industry. For example, I don't know if I'm going to get a great result here, but they can then see like data and have some level of expectation about what to expect in terms of compensation. And again, you can see the system respects the privacy concerns as well, that once you get below 3, it's not going to show any actual numbers that might identify one student. There's even the concept of the all-school network, so that all GradLeaders schools participating in this can share their offer information in a obviously unanimous way to give students a greater pool of data to search across. So in this case, maybe there aren't that many other students at my school that are getting a finance job in the energy industry, but I could branch out and look at all of the schools in the GradLeaders platform and get a good result. Now, in addition to the offer comparison or salary comparison tool, we've also done some things with the data visualization tool, and you can put that in front of your students as well, so that they have access to some of the looker metrics that can be created to understand, in this case, who's hiring, what are they paying by company. Other types of charts like that can be put out there for the students' benefit to come in and do some analysis on their own.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. So that's it. There aren't any other questions in here right now. So I think we'll give everyone back 20 minutes in their day. So thank you all for coming. If you want more information, certainly reach out or visit gradleaders.com for more info. Thanks.
Thank you all.